3.
Hi, today I'm going to talk about drawing positive and negative space. I set up a still life here of a stool, a ceramic pot, and a lamp. And the reason I picked these items is because there's holes between things, which makes the positive or negative space more interesting. Positive space is the subject matter, in this case, this pot, this stool, and this lamp. We're not concerned with drawing the subject matter, the positive space, as we're concerned with drawing the negative space, everything surrounding and between. So we're not actually drawing the inside of anything here. We're drawing the shapes around and between. Positive or negative space, it's a symbiotic relationship, and we tend to neglect the negative space. They're equally important, but the negative space might be even a little bit more important because we neglect it. So once you start understanding how to draw positive and negative space together, you start noticing more interesting details, and the drawing just comes together much more naturally. So besides positive and negative space, we're going to discuss sighting and measuring. So I did this drawing earlier. It took some time, so I didn't sit down and do it on video, but I'm going to explain what I did. I sat here and I decided to use this pencil, a random pencil, for a unit of measure. You can use anything for a unit of measure. It can be a ruler, it can be a stick, it can be a pencil. And when I sat here, I measured the bottom of the still life, which is the bottom of that stool, put my finger here, and brought the pencil up here, and that still life was 2 of these pencil lengths long. So since this was my unit of measure, and this is just a lucky coincidence that it was 2 pencil lengths long. So measuring the bottom of the still life is the leg of that stool, because it's closest to me. Things that are closer or lower on the drawing. The top of the still life is the top of that lamp. So when I measured, it was 1, 2 of these pencil lengths. You won't have to draw these things in when you do your drawing, but I put them there so you can see, for example, and I'll have examples of this drawing on canvas as well. So knowing that measurement, now I can measure the width. And the width is from this side of this stool leg over to this side of this tripod. The width is a little over 1 pencil length. So I brought it here to get 1 pencil length, and then there was that much more space at the end. So 1 pencil length plus this. So now I have the height and the width. The width is here, and the height is here. I know that if I go any higher than that, I'll be out of proportion, and if I go any wider than this, I'll be out of proportion. So when we measure, and by the way, this kind of measuring is I call it measuring verbatim, which means we're drawing it the size we're actually seeing it. Once you understand how to do that, you could divide or multiply or whatever you wanted. But if you're drawing it the size you see it, when you're measuring anyway, it's so important that your elbow is locked, your shoulders are square, you close one eye, and you don't let your pencil tilt at all. You don't let your pencil tilt like this at all. So you hold the pencil there, close one eye, put your finger here, there's 1 pencil length, there's 2 pencil lengths. So I was able to mark 1 pencil length, 2 pencil lengths. If I were starting this drawing here, what I did is I made some hash marks. 1 pencil length, 2 pencil lengths, 1, 2, and then 1 pencil length and that little bit more tells me that my entire still life is going to exist in this space. It can't come out of this space or else it's going to be out of proportion. Now that's really pretty cool to know, because once you have the height and the width, everything's going to be relative to a pencil length. Everything's going to be relative to the length of this pencil. So when I was drawing this one, I measured how long is the stool of that, the leg of that stool, and it turned out to be just slightly over a pencil length. So when I measured it earlier, I brought it here and it was slightly over a pencil length. I didn't have to guess the length of that leg because it was right there for me to measure. Once again, shoulder square, elbow locked, one eye closed. I can't repeat enough how important it is to have your elbow locked because you'll get a different measurement here than you will here. So by locking it, you're going to get a consistent measurement. So then I can come in and measure anything against pencil lengths in here. And just by holding my pencil out, let's say, what's the width of the pot? I can hold my pencil horizontally here. I'm closing one eye, locking my elbow, shoulders are square. And I had the width of this pot without having to guess it at all. So everything just kind of comes together with the measuring like that. Now sighting, because this is a positive or negative drawing with sighting and measuring. Sighting, I can hold my pencil up to the right leg of that stool, bring it here, and know I've got the angle right. There's two ways of doing this. One is to get the angle there and bring it right to my paper. So when I drew it earlier, I had this direction down when I drew the angle of that leg. Same with the tripod over there. If I hold this pencil at this angle, I was able to get the direction of the tripod leg down correctly. So one way of sighting, and this is sighting now, is to hold whatever it is you're using to sight with, whether it's a stick or a pencil or a ruler, and get that direction down and carry it right to your page like this. The other way is to hold your pencil or whatever you're using to sight and measure with vertically and see what direction this is going in relation to vertical. Then I bring it here and I can see that angle, whether it's 20, 25 degrees. You don't have to know degrees, but you want to be able to make sure you have the right direction. And same with anything in here you're doing. I can hold the pencil underneath the seat of the stool to see that this is curving up, curving across and curving up. I can hold my pencil against the bottom of that lamp to catch what's happening in here. Anywhere I hold my pencil up there, I can see what direction things are going. Whether I'm doing it by direct sighting like this, or I'm holding verticals or horizontals like this to see what direction subject matter is going in relation to vertical or horizontal. You have vertical and horizontal references on your page already because the sides of your drawing are vertical and the top and bottom are horizontal. So when I drew this out, and I'm going to have examples of the steps of the drawing on canvas as well, I found a spot in here to start, and I checked the angle of that leg, and I knew that leg was one pencil length long. So by checking this angle, I came here. Let's check it again. Okay, and I was able to put a line down for that leg of that stool. And then down here, I came across, came up. How high? I can measure it. Let's measure it again. Right here. Then I start coming across with the stool support. Now it's really important to notice here, I'm only drawing shapes, or I'm drawing the shapes that are between and around everything. So what I just drew there was this area in here. There are no intersecting lines. You don't do a line like that. You know, I'll erase that later. You don't draw in here. You don't draw in here. You don't draw anything inside. You don't draw the light inside of the lamp because we're concerned with drawing around and between. That's the main idea. So when you do this at home, try to set up something that's got an interesting variety of positive and negative space and maybe some different heights. And set it up on a flat plane where you can get some distance from it. And start carefully sighting and measuring, but start with your hash marks so you know the height and the width to begin with, then start coming in and checking everything in relation to that. Down here, what I did was, with the inking later on, I was playing with my brush with the India ink, and I was playing with lines with my Crow-Quill pen. I gotta clean this thing. Don't do that to yourself. Don't let the ink dry in your Crow-Quill tip. I gotta clean that out. And then I was also playing with this is a Sharpie, but any waterproof pen. So to see what kind of lines I was gonna get with Crow-Quill pen. Makes beautiful lines. This technical pen makes the same width of line everywhere. And then I was checking out the ink to see how transparent or opaque it was there. Don't do that on your drawing because you'll just be making a mess. So when I came in to start inking this thing, after I drew it out, let's get rid of those. I came in with this and my Crow-Quill pen sometimes, and I drew lines everywhere that I drew pencil lines, like so. So everywhere there's a pencil line, I came in and put these lines in again. And then sometimes I would make the lines a little thicker, whether I'm using the Crow-Quill pen or this pen. And then after I got it plenty outlined, I used a very inexpensive watercolor brush. You don't want to use an expensive watercolor brush with ink. I dipped my brush in the ink and started painting in the rest of the negative space after I drew the lines in first. I had pretty good control with the brush, so I was able to come right down the sides of things, you know, pretty easily, but generally you want to do a good outline of it first. This is a little transparent, so it looks a little washy. That doesn't bother me a bit. But when you go to ink it, you can either have a rectangle around it that you ink, or you can make it sort of painterly like I did here. But the bottom line is you want to have a drawing that shows positive and negative space and good measuring and sighting. That's pretty much it. So that's the same lecture I give in class when we're in class. And I'll be providing you guys with a lot of notes and example drawings on Canvas. Okay, thank you for your time.